When it comes to Batman in video games, Batman: Return of the Joker for the Nintendo Entertainment System stands out as one of the most ambitious titles from the early 1990s. Released in 1991 by Sunsoft, the game is a side-scrolling action platformer that draws heavily on Batman's gritty atmosphere and fast-paced combat, though it is not tied directly to any specific Batman film or comic storyline. Instead, it stands on its own as a unique entry in the Batman gaming legacy during the 8-bit era. Sunsoft, the company behind the game, was no stranger to developing NES games. They had already found success with their first Batman game on the NES in 1989, which was based on Tim Burton's 1989 Batman film. Sunsoft's take on The Dark Knight was lauded for its tight controls, fast-paced action, and impressive graphics for the time. After the success of the original Batman game, Sunsoft was eager to capitalize on their newfound reputation for creating high-quality licensed titles. Batman: Return of the Joker was developed with the goal of creating an even bigger and more impressive Batman game for the NES. Interestingly, Return of the Joker was not tied to any specific Batman movie or comic book arc, giving the developers more freedom to design an original plot and gameplay experience. The most notable aspect of Sunsoft's development approach for Batman: Return of the Joker was their ability to push the NES hardware to its limits. The game is known for its incredible graphics, smooth animations, and the use of Sunsoft's advanced sound technology to deliver an atmospheric soundtrack, making it stand out as one of the most visually and aurally impressive NES games ever created. Return of the Joker is relatively straightforward and centers around Batman's ongoing battle with his arch-nemesis, the Joker. The Joker has returned to Gotham City with a new plan to cause chaos and destruction, and it's up to Batman to stop him once again. In typical Batman fashion, the Dark Knight must fight his way through legions of thugs, high-tech enemies, and powerful bosses across a variety of stages in order to reach the Joker. The game does not dive deeply into any specific backstory or narrative intricacies, but it leans heavily into the classic dynamic of Batman's pursuit of justice against Gotham's most notorious villain. While the game doesn't focus on deep storytelling, it's filled with the dark, brooding atmosphere that fans of Batman have come to expect. Each level features gritty environments, from Gotham's rooftops to industrial factories, setting the stage for Batman's showdown with the Joker. At its core, Batman: Return of the Joker is a side-scrolling action platformer, but it introduces a variety of mechanics that make it stand out from other platformers on the NES. One of the key gameplay features is Batman's reliance on ranged attacks. Unlike the previous Batman NES game, where Batman primarily used melee attacks like punches and kicks, Return of the Joker arms the Dark Knight with a powerful Batarang-like wrist-mounted projectile weapon. Players can upgrade this weapon by collecting power-ups scattered throughout the levels, giving Batman the ability to fire more powerful shots, or even spread shots, adding a strategic element to the combat. As with many NES action games, platforming plays a major role in Batman: Return of the Joker. Batman has to navigate a variety of dangerous environments filled with obstacles, enemies, and tricky jumps. The platforming in this game is smooth and responsive, allowing players to feel in control as they traverse rooftops, avoid traps, and defeat waves of enemies. Each stage culminates in a boss battle, where Batman faces off against iconic villains or high-tech enemy machines. These boss fights often require players to figure out attack patterns and weak points, adding a level of challenge and strategy to the game. Of course, the final showdown is with the Joker himself, offering a climactic battle that puts Batman's skills to the test. The levels in Return of the Joker are diverse, ranging from industrial factories to high-tech military bases and urban environments. Each stage has a distinct visual style and offers different challenges, from platforming sections to more combat-focused areas. The level design is praised for keeping the gameplay fresh, with a good balance between action and exploration. One of the most remarkable aspects of Batman: Return of the Joker is its graphics, which are some of the best seen on the NES. Sunsoft used advanced sprite and background techniques to create large, detailed character sprites and fluid animations. Batman himself is depicted in a large, muscular form, and the Joker appears in vibrant, exaggerated colors. The game's environments are dark and atmospheric, fitting the tone of Gotham City perfectly. The sound design is also worth mentioning. Sunsoft's sound team, led by Naoki Kodaka, used the NES's limited sound hardware to produce a powerful and memorable soundtrack. The music complements the action on screen, using heavy, pulse-pounding beats that heighten the intensity of each level. One of the most widely praised aspects of the game is its graphics, which were considered to be among the best on the NES. Sunsoft pushed the console to its limits with detailed sprites, smooth animations, and impressive use of color. The size of the character sprites, especially Batman's, was far larger than what players were used to seeing on the NES, giving the game a more immersive feel. Unlike many licensed Batman games of the time, Return of the Joker did not tie into any specific Batman film or comic book storyline. This gave the developers more creative freedom in designing the game's levels, enemies, and story. The Joker's design and the game's overall tone borrow from a variety of Batman sources, but it remains an original story set in the broader Batman universe. Due to the game's success on the NES, Batman: Return of the Joker was later ported to other systems, including the Sega Genesis and Game Boy. The game also saw an enhanced version released for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, which featured improved graphics and sound but retained the core gameplay. Batman: Return of the Joker is often viewed as a spiritual sequel to Sunsoft's earlier NES Batman game, though the two games are quite different in terms of gameplay. While the original game had a heavier focus on melee combat and wall-jumping mechanics, this game leans more into ranged combat and weapon upgrades. Despite the differences, both games are beloved for their faithful depictions of Batman in 8-bit form. Rare, the renowned developers of games like Battletoads and Donkey Kong Country, handled the SNES version of Batman: Return of the Joker, giving it a unique place in the Batman gaming canon. While Sunsoft originally developed the NES and Genesis versions, Rare's involvement in the SNES port meant that some of the signature style they became known for can be seen in the later versions of the game. Like many games of its time, the game is known for its high level of difficulty. The game's fast-paced action, challenging platforming sections, and tough boss fights mean that players have to learn enemy patterns and master Batman's abilities to progress. The game's difficulty is part of what makes it a classic among NES enthusiasts, offering a rewarding experience for those who persevere. Batman: Return of the Joker for the NES is a standout title in the 8-bit era, offering an intense and visually impressive Batman experience. Sunsoft's dedication to pushing the limits of the NES hardware resulted in a game that not only captured the essence of Batman, but also stood as a technical marvel for its time. With tight gameplay, stunning graphics, and a memorable soundtrack, the game cemented itself as one of the best Batman games of its era. For fans of retro games, Batman, or challenging action platformers, Batman: Return of the Joker remains a must-play title that showcases just how far the NES could go in delivering a rich and immersive gaming experience. Whether you're fighting your way through Gotham's dangerous streets or facing off against the Joker himself, Return of the Joker is a testament to the enduring appeal of the Dark Knight in video games.